please join me in welcoming Carla Brandau. Carla is CEO of Discretionary Effort Leadership. Welcome, Carla.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Should I call a plumber or an electrician? I am so glad that I have the number for the experts and the geniuses in the facilities management. And when we have other dilemmas in our office building, we say, does it move and should it move? If it should move, we pull out our trusty WD-40. If it should not move, we get that trusty duct tape out. I don't know if you solve problems that way or not. I'm sure you don't. We're here today to talk about how to make your employees your competitive advantage. And you know that they are your competitive advantage when the person on the other end of the line says, oh, please send Joe. Joe does it right the first time, and Joe is so nice. And like Johnny Bench says, Joe doesn't stink. Now, what is the competitive advantage? The competitive advantage is when you look at the competitive advantage, it's gained by offering customers more than what your competitor does. And that is attention to detail. Some of the attention to detail that I learned about is the grounds crew at the Augusta National Golf Club. And you know, every spring, how many go to the Masters tournament? Since 1934, which is way before I was born, they have been sponsoring the Masters tournament. And the sponsors, of course, it's always held the first week of April, so you have 2 weeks if you haven't gotten tickets for it yet. But the sponsors want the golf course in spectacular spring glory. And so the grounds crew goes out and monitors all of the growth of the tulips. And if one is starting to bloom too soon, they will go out at night and they will put ice cubes on all of the tulips, thousands of tulips. Now that's attention to detail. I've also been impressed with some of the 20th century facility management things that happen and some of the 21st century as we move into the 21st century, and what you have to be, quote, an expert or a professional in facilities management. And it's been interesting to me to look at and to read the study that NFMT did last year. Has anyone seen that? They interviewed thousands of FM professionals in 93 countries, and what they came up with were 4 areas that you need to be proficient in. Number 1 is asset management. Number 2 is business management. Number 3 is risk management. And we finally get down to number 4, which is operations and maintenance. It's like, okay, that is interesting to me. And there were so many skills that you were supposed to have that I had to kind of write them down because I couldn't memorize them all. It's like you've got to have project management, strategic planning, capital planning, construction, real estate, contract management, risk management. And did you know that in risk management now you're responsible for the environmental health of people? And when I was down in your wonderful expo down there, one of your exhibitors from the Special Pathogens Laboratory will check your water for Legionnaire's disease. It's like they told me that about 50% of the companies of buildings have Legionnaire's disease in the water. It's like, you got to be kidding me, who knew that? And so it's like in the 21st century, there's just so much more that you have to be aware of. In fact, I actually thought that it was like reading the job posting on ZipRecruiter, you know, for that superman or woman that does not exist, because you cannot get all of these skills in one person. But you can, if you go back to the area of facilities management, and in the area that they put in business management, they have human capital and they have leadership skills under business management. If you can key into those skills, and that's what we're doing today, if you can key into those skills, then you can build a team that will become your competitive advantage. And that's our goal today. Now, an ancient Chinese philosopher, Sun Tzu, said, leaders lead by example, not by force. And if we come forward a few centuries, Jack Welch said, when you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown, you were given the responsibility to take care of those in your need and to train them and to help them be better people. And then Simon Sinek has a new book out, which I think has a fabulous title. It's Leaders Eat Last. It's about leadership in the Marine Corps. Leaders eat last. Isn't that a fabulous title? What he says in there is that leadership is not about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. And so that tells us where we're going today. And by the way, one of the reasons that leadership is really tough is because it takes time. It takes giving special attention to every one of the people that you manage. Now, these quotes set us up for a beloved American philosopher, Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown is getting, here we go. Charlie Brown is getting advice from Lucy. And Lucy says, Charlie Brown, life is like a deck chair. He says, like a what? Like a deck chair. Have you ever been on a cruise? The passengers open up these deck chairs so they can sit in the sun. Some of them put their deck chairs at the back of the ship where they can see where they've been. Others put them at the front of the ship where they can see where they're going. Charlie Brown, on the cruise of life, where is your deck chair facing? Charlie Brown says, I've never been able to get one unopened. And it's like, I have a really hard time getting baby high chairs unfolded, and I have a hard time getting the lawn chairs at the Little League games unfolded. Anything else that's unfolded, as you can tell, I'm not really mechanical. So I relate to Charlie Brown. And so I ask you now, pretend your department is a cruise ship. Where are your employees putting their deck chairs? Do they put them at the back of the ship so they can glory in the past days? So they can glory in what happened in the 20th century? It's like, if that's the case, you're headed for obsolescence. If they put them at the front of the ship, then they're able to look out and see the storms that are coming, see the turbulence, and help you through that turbulence. Or they can look over the horizon and they can see opportunities for you. And I don't know, you may have some people that spend most of their time in the cabins. Anyone have anyone that spends all their time in the cabin? Well, when they spend all their time in their cabin, all they are working for is a paycheck. Okay, they're never going to ascend to be an authentic contributor to you and to contribute to your organization. And I don't know, do you have some that hide out in that proverbial boiler room? I was working in one company, and they had a lady who ran the copy center. And back behind all the tall shelves, all the reams of paper, she had a cot. And she slept for 2, 3, maybe 4 hours a day. We all wondered what her night job was. So, where do your people place their deck chairs? And I have to tell you, some of them will place them on the side of the ship. These are your real opportunities, because these are the people that are saying, if you can't entice me, I will become an authentic contributor and I will give you discretionary effort. If you can't entice me. So that's your real opportunity. These are called the fence sitters. And how do we put them and how do we get them into being a contributor, to being a discretionary effort giver? Well, let's define discretionary effort. Discretionary effort is the difference between what an employee does to get a paycheck, and some of them just stay right there, they don't really care, and what they are capable of giving to you or capable of doing and contributing. That's what discretionary effort is. It's that difference right in there. And I think you can see that there's quite a gap sometimes in what they do to get a paycheck and what they could be capable of contributing. I was doing a program for Fort Benning. I'm from Georgia. And so I was at Fort Benning. Someone else there? Are you from Fort Benning or from Georgia? And as I had lunch with the head of the Army Research Institute, he said, Carla, you should see what happens to these young men and women when they come in and I describe a project to them. I put that in your head, okay? Describe a project to them. And then I say to them, if you can make this fly, you can have all the glory. If it flops, I'll take the rap. So what do you think is happening inside of those employees? Are they moving from just getting a paycheck? Yeah. Are they, and he's finding out what their capability is, right? Because they're so excited, they're going to get the spotlight. So that is how you can figure out what an employee is capable of giving to you. Now, you cannot legislate or demand discretionary effort. And why is that? because it's a free will choice that employees make when they walk in the office. They don't know it, they don't understand it, but silently up here in their head, they're saying, how hard am I going to work today? Should I start on my tasks, or you know what, I really need to talk to my manager about my days off for vacation. And Don never smiles. Do you have customers that never smile? Don never smiles, wants his air conditioning checked again. I just did that. And Pat always right. Do you know people who are always right? Don't they irritate you? Pat always right, wants the light. She says the light's flickering in her room. It's like, that's impossible. They're brand new bulbs. And Jeffrey Stickler, do you have a boss that's a stickler? Or are you a boss that's a stickler? Jeffrey Stickler wants to know why those solar panels are not installed yet on their roof. And I told him that they're still on back order. So you can see how many human emotions are tied up in their productivity and in how they start their day and how they work through the day. And many people think that giving discretionary effort is going the extra mile. Did anyone here think that's what it was? It's part of it, but that's more 20th century. When we get into the 21st century, there are a lot of other components to it. Now, I overheard a conversation between two managers just the other day, and one of them said, "Oh, no problem. You can get her to give discretionary effort. All you have to do is say, you can leave early on Friday if you stay late on Thursday and finish this report for me." Sorry, that's not discretionary effort. Discretionary effort is when people give you commitment. They give you commitment, not just compliance to rules. And they give you commitment, meaning that they're going to help you, be more cost effective. They're going to help you find waste. They're going to give you mind share up here and intellectual thought. They're going to be creative with you, meaning that they're going to go out and find one right answer, but the person giving discretionary effort will find the second and third right answers for you so that you have options. That's giving you discretionary effort, and that's moving beyond just going the second mile, which is usually thought of as staying late, coming in early, working through lunch or whatever has to be done. And like I say, it doesn't mean that that's not part of discretionary effort, but you can take discretionary effort to whole new levels if you add these other components. Now, they work with the producer's mindset, and I think this is important too because it ties into your time management that you're teaching your employees. It ties into how they close out their day, how they know where they're going to start in the morning, and how they are prepared to start in the morning. And so it's a cycle of them wanting to come to work and produce, not just come to work and wonder, where do I start? And then, of course, they seek to give exceptional customer service. And one of the reasons this is an important topic of how you handle your employees and how they learn to give discretionary effort is because how you treat them and how they are treated in your team, that's how they're going to treat their customers. And so when you get them into this discretionary effort cycle and when you teach them to be authentic contributors, then they are definitely going to give exceptional customer service. Now, I was privy to an invitation with a security guard. And I know you work, either you have them in-house or you work closely with a security guard company. And the security guard was about 9 o'clock at night. And he got a call from a woman who worked on the 7th floor, had a corner office and a 6-figure income. She said, "I left a $5 bill down on my desk. Will you go get it for me?" So he goes up to the 7th floor, looks on the desk, and there is no $5 bill. So he calls her back and says, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I could not find a $5 bill on your desk." She says, "Well, I know, the cleaning lady took that, and I know which one it was." And this so disturbed this security guard that he went back up to the 7th floor. He looked all around, and he finally got down on the floor on his hands and knees, and there under the desk was the $5 bill. So he called the lady up, and she drove back at 10 o'clock that night to get her $5 bill. Now, that's exceptional customer service. Now, if you could theorize about this, she was so ballistic and irate that maybe he took $5 out of his pocket and gave it to her. And maybe that $5 was lost in the bottom of her purse. Who knows? But he gave exceptional customer service. Now, let's pretend that you're hiring a new employee, and this new employee's name is Dan. And you're so excited about Dan. Excellent resume, good references, and as you are onboarding Dan, you give him a lot of attention, right? And so you think that he's going to be stable and he's going, and so then your attention flatlines. And what happens to Dan? You can see how his line starts to go down there, right? He has peaked. And by the way, he's starting to be disengaged. Does it take much to see a disengaged person? I don't think so. You just look at the body language, right? Do they look you in the eye? Do they give you ideas? Do they give you suggestions? Do they try not to talk to you? Do they contribute in meetings? If they've stopped contributing in meetings, maybe they're starting to be disengaged. And so what happens when they start to be disengaged is that you have to re-engage with them. And these are what we call touch points. These are the touch points between you and the employee. And I have to tell you that I had a problem with an employee like this, and I went to a wonderful mentor of mine, and I said, you know, what can I do? And he said, look, first of all, you have to know when to listen and when to shut up. You have to be able to be honest with this person. You have to be transparent with them. You have to make them accountable. And he says, you have to know that this moment in time is not your objective, it's the future. So you don't want to belittle them right here, but you want to try to lift them and bring them back. And I thought that was wonderful advice that he gave me. And if you can do that, then you can see what happens as you and the employee start to ascend together, where you get into authentic contribution and the employee is giving you discretionary effort on a regular basis. Now, these principles are in the new book that we have out, How to Earn the Gift of Discretionary Effort. And I hope you all put in a card, because we're going to give one of these, or two of these, away today. So put your business card in the little box that was going around. Did you see it here? We've got two people with the boxes, so we'll, if you want to put a business card in, just, you know, pass it down to them. Is that okay? We're also going to be giving away another complimentary book called The Leadership of One, and some Titleists. So make sure that you are in the box, in the little box there for the drawing. Okay, what we talk about in the Ross Brondo Discretionary Effort Leadership Model is these 5 levels, starting at the base with integrity and gratitude. Now, this looks a little familiar, this pyramid. Does anyone recognize it? What does it look like? Maslow's Pyramid, right? And you know, that was intentional, because Maslow, before, you might say, Maslow came out with this in 1943, and before that time, people were working in a lot of factories. They had to do as many things as they could, as fast as they could, and Maslow came out and said, you know what? These are human beings. And that started the team building of the 20th century. Of course, now we've moved into a little bit different of the discretionary effort when you go into the 21st century, but this started the movement to understand that the people are human beings. And if you have trouble, you know, down there, the physiological needs, it's like, help, help, I need air, I need food, I need water. And if you have trouble with remembering that, all you have to do is remember with chocolate, okay? So down there on the bottom level, who is hungry this morning? Come on up, who wants my Reese's Pieces? Come on, someone's got to be hungry this morning. Anyone? Are you hungry? Thank you. Thank you so much. Where are you from in Atlanta?
Atlanta Public Schools.
Okay, good one. Now, tell me, anyone feeling like you're not safe today? Maybe you've made an error or a mistake and you feel like you're all Butterfingers? Is that you?
My favorite candy bar.
Oh. Come on up and get it. And where are you from, Gene?
Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia. Good, good. So the next one is love. But is anyone, this takes the bravery. Are you betwixt in between? There you go.
My name's Candy.
Oh, Candy. And where are you from, Candy? Okay, Pennsylvania. So she's betwixt in between. Anyone wants to know that? And then, you know, has anyone been put down lately? Got to tell you, Snickers, because massive success is the best revenge. You got that? Okay, and Almond Joy. Is anyone just really happy today? Oh. Yes, and that's your favorite candy bar, right? Thank you. You're welcome. And where are you from, Jeffrey?
Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach, public schools, okay.
Where's the billionaire?
I should have put that up there, right? Because that's where we're going to profitability. Let's see. So that's the way you remember Maslow's pyramid. Now, as we go through the Ross-Brondo discretionary effort pyramid, I'm going to ask you to kind of jot down ideas. I'm going to go through them simply. And what I want you to do is jot down ideas, because when you see what's in the Ross-Brondo and you practice those things, it's like keeping the grass watered on your side of the fence. So if you have an idea that you want to share with people at the conclusion of this, then come on up. We'll let you sit right here. Be important. And you can have one of these to take home and sit on your desk, okay? So be thinking about what you'd like to share with people. Now, you notice at the bottom of that pyramid there's integrity. And we've studied a lot of companies, and most companies had integrity at the base of their pyramid. And so what we did was put that at the base of ours. And Oprah Winfrey says that real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it or not. That's integrity. Now, in our book, we don't leave you all by yourself, but we have practice statements in there. And the practice statement that goes along with integrity is, I do the right thing, and I do the next right thing, and I do things the right way. Now, why that's important is that if you have that in your head and you've practiced saying that, then when you get in situations with employees, you're going to be able to make a good choice. Now, gratitude. I love this quote by Cicero. He says that gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. So apparently, it should have been first before integrity, right? And gratitude, oh, by the way, authors tell us and philosophers say it's not the happy people that are grateful. It's the grateful people that are happy. And so your employees are going to be happy when you tell them thank you and when you're grateful for what they do. Now, saying thank you fills that life with good vibrations. And what it does is it focuses on the present, the things that went correct, the things that went right, not the things that went wrong, because we know there's so many things that can go wrong during the day, right? And can go wrong as you look through and as people work. There's so many things that can get off track. However, you focus on what went right, and then you can feel grateful for that. And being grateful also helps you live in the present, not the should of the past, where we get depressed, or the perfect future, which does not exist. So saying thank you does all of those things, but it also reminds you of the importance of the human connection in our technical world. I don't know if you felt this or not. I'm sure you have. How many have been in an elevator and you feel all alone, even though it's crammed with people? Yeah, because if you don't have a human connection with them, you feel lonely inside. And that's what's important as you work with your employees, is that you make them feel that there's this human connection between you and them. Now, you can make gratitude linger a little longer if you actually send them a thank you note, or you write them an email or send them a text and tell them thank you. You could acknowledge them in a meeting or a newsletter. You want to put the spotlight on them for what they did. And then you can mention them to upper management. What a novel idea, right? You can give them credit for their ideas. And I remember a time when one of my managers, I gave them an idea which I thought was really great. And by the way, we do have great ideas, right? And we put them out on the table, and then someone goes, that doesn't work. Or, that's not so good. Has that happened to anyone? Yeah, that's happened before. And so what you have to do is understand that sometimes your role on the team is to put an idea out there and then let other people take over and make it better. That takes me pulling back my ego just a little bit, okay? And saying that that's okay to do. So I gave this manager this idea, and I had two situations. One manager, in the next meetings and for the next couple of months, he kept saying, this was Carla's idea. And what did that do to my self-esteem? It's like, whoa, I'm important. Then I had another manager that took my idea and gave it to someone else. It's like, what happened there? So be careful with whose idea is who. Now, we know that the first layer of the pyramid is safety, and we have to have safety in our work buildings. We have to have our workers safe, and we have to have them clean, because the building is the face of your company. And when workers come and they see a clean building, they feel good, even if it means that you have to paint the scuff marks down the hallway every week. Make sure it's clean. And then security is outside the building. You don't want to let anybody in, and we know that, especially with the tragedy in Parkland. We've got to keep people out. Now, there's another kind of safety, and this is called psychological safety. And I don't mean with this that this is a safe space that kids want in college now, where they're not bothered by anything that doesn't hurt, they don't agree with, okay? No, what we mean here, and Amy Edmondson tells us this, she's a Harvard Business School professor, she says that psychological safety means that people can discuss things. That I can tell you my opinion and not be put down for it. Or I can tell you my opinion and it's open and we can discuss what's right or what's wrong about it or what might be good or what might be not good about it. So this means that this is the climate that we're trying to reach in our company so that we can definitely have discretionary effort given, because once you criticize or put them down, you shut that off. But if you can let them open up and be transparent about it and discuss the idea and let other people jump in and let that idea grow, then you have a win-win situation, because we are interdependent in today's world. We are interdependent. No one can have all the information in their head at one time. We have to depend on other people. Now, in the 20th century, we used to be able to work in our little silos and we still were okay. But in the 21st century, we're interdependent, because just like that list that I was telling you of all the skills you have to have in the 21st century, you can't have all of those yourself, and you have to build a team, and you need this psychological safety for them. And this leads us into social acceptance, okay? Social acceptance means that you care about an employee. It means that you welcome them into the in-group. I know you've all had the experience of being and not being in the in-group, right? And you miss that psychological connection between you, and so it's important to let them know that you're in the in-group. And I also think that you need to accept them as is. Now, work with me for a minute here. How many have ever gone to buy a new appliance and gone to the scratch and dent section of the store? Oh, thank you for raising your hands. And you need a new washer, and this washer has all the features you need, but there's a dent on the side. And you say, no problem. I can put that against the wall and no one will see it. And so you buy the washer, take it home, and you get great value for your money. Well, people are kind of the same way. We all have a scratch or a dent somewhere. We all have strengths and we all have limitations. And so what you want to do is accept that person as is. And then, like Jack Welch said, you want to help them blossom. You want to help them grow. You want to help them be professional in their own way and get their skills increased. That's what your job is. Once you accept them as is, you accept them in the in-group, then you help them grow. Now, some of this is understanding the basic personality types, and how many, I know that all the hands are going to go up. How many have done a personality assessment? How many have done 2 or 3 personality assessments? And how many times do they all come out the same? Yeah, it's like, whoa, I came out the same. I thought I would change a little bit. No, we have different, I like to say that these things are stamped on you at conception, okay? They're stamped on you at conception, and so you have a tendency to be one of these different personality styles. And the thing about studying the personalities, it's wonderful to know that I'm not the only one that's strange. There's 25% of the whole world that's like me. And there's also 75% of the world that's different than me. And that's why you study personality, so that you can start to relate better to the employees, because chances are they're not going to be exactly like you, and you do not want them just like you, because each one has different thought processes and different talents and different skills. So I gave these the natural resources, because I've done a lot of work with the EPA and with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources. I'm from Atlanta, by the way, as well. And so the Ds are the fiery individuals that are natural leaders, and they burn with passion, and their limitation is they can burn you. And then you have the people that are the wonderful sunshines that are a breath of fresh air to work with. Their limitation is that you can get sunburned. And then you have the people that are, I call them the oak trees, because they're steady, calm, mediators. And how do you move an oak tree? Really tough. That's their limitation. And when you're sitting under it, you might get an acorn on your head. And then you have the wonderful blue people that are like the water. Think of the water, how it flows down, and it flows down and it will fill all the crevices. And so what they do is they take all the notes, they have all the documentation, they're the library for the company. If you want information of what happened 2 years ago, they have it for you. So their limitation is that they can turn into storms. And by the way, I remember a story about the facilities management people in New York when the big storm came through. When the workers came to work at 5 in the morning, they already had sandbags out in case the storm water was trying to come in the front door. So they were thinking ahead. And I guess they had some sea in them, right, so that water didn't come. Now let me show you a little story so that you will understand how to tell these when you meet them. The D comes in to the hotel to check in for the conference, and there's no reservation for him. His shark fin comes out, and he says, "What is your name? What is the name of your manager?" And he will have a room that night. And then you have the C that comes in, and the C person has no reservation either. So now, in the 20th century, we used to say they pulled out their datebook organizer, and they said, no, on January 20th at 2 p.m. I made that reservation. So now in the 21st century, I guess we're going to have to say they pulled out their cell phone, and where do you guys keep all of that? I see you shaking your head. You've got some of that, right? And they will have a room that night because they have documentation. And then you have the S person, this wonderful guy. He says, "Oh, listen, I know mistakes happen. Don't worry about it. You know, that couch is really nice over there. I'll just sit over there and sleep a little bit. And if, you know, a room becomes available, let me know and I'll take it, okay?" And then the S individual with their bright, sunny attitude and their fun and their humor, they have a really wonderful conversation with the clerk. And she says, "You know, I have an extra room. Why don't you come home with me tonight?" So everyone gets a room. So personality is really important to you when you work with your people. And what I'd like you to think of is all of these people have gifts, okay? They all have gifts, and they're sitting all around your office. And they have gifts that aren't just personality gifts. They have gifts of character, and they have gifts of hobbies. And so our practice statement that goes along with this is, I have everything I need. Now that doesn't mean you have everything you need in the future, and it doesn't mean that you have everything you're going to want, but it means right here at this point in time, if I look at my team, I have everything I need to solve this problem. Can you let that kind of sink in your head? So when you get into a challenge and a problem there, just think, I have everything I need, and then start looking at the gifts that your team members have. Then we come to rational alignment. I like to call this the upfront stuff. Okay, and this means that you're clarifying. In fact, this ought to be first, because if you've ever delegated to someone and you expected them to know what to do, and then it turns out that it's like, why did they do that? I mean, you have no clue. And it comes back to this upfront stuff that you have to do. You have to delegate clearly to them and make the goals and objectives crystal clear for them. And of course, this is our pyramid again. I hope you love this pyramid, because it starts with your values and mission and goals and objectives as a whole company, and then it goes down to your department. Are those clear? Because if they're not clear, that person could be working all day long and be busy all day long and look busy, but they're not advancing your goals and they're not achieving what you need them to achieve. So then you come up, and by the way, this is the start of the employee's productivity. And you have the manager and employee checkpoints there. And what I try to put across in my time management classes is that the manager does not, when they come to check on you, it's not like you're going to the principal's office or that they're micromanaging you. They should be coming to say, what are your blocks? How can I help you? What's stopping you from achieving this? And then you become this partner in their authentic contributions and their discretionary effort. Then we have stages of emotional commitment, and this relates to our little graph when the person starts to be disengaged. And you know that people will go through these on a regular basis, because when they have this potential and you're hiring them, it's like, oh, this is going to be a wonderful employee. And then the honeymoon period starts, right? When the honeymoon is over and the new hire is saying, I thought the grass was greener over here. Because all companies have some kind of problem, don't they? We all have the same kind of people issues. And so reality sets in and they start disconnecting and you get some disengagement. And then you want to, as I said, work on those touch points with the employees. And as you work on the touch points and you work on you start to come to this harmony. How many have a music background? Anyone have a music background? You know, in the music background, there's called dissonance. And you have the chord and it resolves. And when it resolves, it feels so good. And that's what we're talking about here, is there's dissonance. There's dissonance. I mean, there's dissonance even to decide where to go to lunch sometimes, right? So there's always dissonance, and you have to resolve that. And when you do, you get harmony, and then you get optimization. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is some authenticity. And then if you have, how many are writing down things that you can share with others? Anyone? I've got some head shaking here. Okay. Authenticity. I love this quote by Bill George. He says, organizations filled with aligned, empowered teams and collaborative employees focused on serving customers will outperform hierarchical, top-down organizations every time. Okay, the hierarchical comes from the 20th century, right? And now we want, he says, top-down leaders may achieve near-term results, but only authentic leaders can galvanize the organization to sustain long-term performance. And that's what we want to do, is move forward in long-term performance. So authenticity is very interesting because we wear this mask, don't we? We have a facade about us. And you know what? I can be really cheerful and happy in the morning when no one has irritated me yet. And once I get irritated, then that little mask comes off. And that was interesting when I was doing the personalities, because I thought I was really collaborative. I'm collaborative to a point, and then when you cross me, my mask comes off. And sometimes we are not clear about what we want because we fear the consequences, or we fear we're going to hurt someone else's feelings, or we fear what will happen to us in the relationship. But what we have to say is that in an organization, if you promote authenticity, what you're doing is people need to be able to tell about their feelings and their opinions with transparency. But then, as we talked about earlier, you have to turn it around and say, but your opinion may not be the prevailing one. So authenticity comes from both sides there. And individuals have to understand that sometimes their viewpoint or their opinion or what they want to do is not going to be the one that the whole organization wants. So if you do this, then you can be authentic and transparent in how you feel and how you want to go forward, but you can also step back and say, and this is a big thing that you learn from facilitation skills, that's not my first choice, but I can live with that. Would you all say that? That is not my first choice. Come on, that's not my first choice, but I can live with that, okay? That will get you out of a lot of trouble. So now, who wants to tell us about how they keep the grass watered on their side of the fence? Anyone going to come up and be brave? Oh yes, thank you. We have anyone else want to? Because we've got more up here. 2 microphones. Come on up. You want to come on up? We could probably take one more in the time we have if you give us headlines, okay? Or we'll see how this gets through.
Sit down.
Yeah, you can sit. Oh, there's no chairs. So.
Oh, sure.
What's your name?
My name is Jordan Garcia,
And where are you from?
Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Oh, Arkansas. Wow.
Yeah. What I encourage my team to do, I have 6 direct reports, to have something that inspires them to come to work every day. So they can put something on their desk, put it up on their wall. Is it a photo of their significant other? You know, is it their children? Is it a title they want or an aspiration? Like, why are they coming to work every day? Not just don't come to work to get a paycheck. Like, what else is there? What else can you get out of life? And so when they come in and they see that picture of their significant other, or they maybe they have that position they want in the future, that's what their goal is. That's what their long-term objective is. And I found that very motivational, so I just thought I'd share that.
Excellent.
And a lot
Thank
of this
you.
made me think of that, so.
Give him a hand. Okay, come on up and tell them your name.
So I'm Liz Falada. I work for Key Snow Management. We're a facilities maintenance company in the northeast of Mid-Atlantic. I'm from Rhode Island, not New York, despite the accent. But I'm an HR director. I'm not a facilities manager, but I talk with all of the managers in our organization. And they always want the best talent from me. And I search for the person who's going to best meet the rec that you give me. But I have to caution my managers, because this is what I've seen time and time again in whatever company I'm in. We talked about the social acceptance, accept employee as is and help the employee to grow. We want that employee to come in a box with a bow and meet everything that we need. And the manager forgets that you need to put something into that employee, be it training or development, and make them fit your role. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to have the team that you want.
Excellent. Thank
So-
you very much. Give her a hand. Oh, wait. You forgot your...
Oh, thank you.
Can I get your name again?
Oh, Liz Falada.
Liz. Okay.
Come see me at my booth, 2351.
Will do. 2351. Thank you, Liz. So my name is Shawn Connor, and I like to talk.
So we're here for the rest of the 5 minutes.
Three things quickly. The first one I learned about a decade ago from my girlfriend and partner. I shut up. That's a real challenge for me. And usually just before that, I will ask somebody that I work with or someone that I report to or someone that I'm mentoring, what do you think about that? And then I shut up and zero in on them. I may not agree with what they say, I may not do what they say, but oh my God, if you just ask somebody what they think and then shut up, it is so powerful. And the one last thing, and this goes to your item about accepting people how they are. There's an old Japanese proverb that I've heard, I don't know whether or not it really is, but sword once broken will never break again. And the legend is that the old swordsmiths would take a sword that was just about finished and they'd hit it just as hard as they could on an anvil, and wherever it broke, that's where the tip would be. And I've found that that applies to people. If you find people, kind of like you talked about, that have been broken before and you give them a shot, they're going to be the best sword you ever found. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Still one?
Yeah, that's for you. Anyone else want to share? Come on up. While he's coming up, to tell you, that's very powerful what you said about people that are broken, because I just talked to a lady that was an office manager, and she was there called in to turn this team around, and the reason she was called in is because the previous manager was so mean to those people that they would actually shake in the doorframe when she called them into her office. So she had to turn that whole thing around by accepting who they were and helping them grow and doing just what you said. Thank you. And your name?
Paul Gibson.
And where are you from?
I'm from Tinton Falls, New Jersey,
Good, good.
and I'm the manager of maintenance and engineering in my facility.
Okay.
And I think that part of my responsibility is to make sure when I go to work, I create the atmosphere. That's part of my responsibility, and that's something that I can control, because if I come with a negative attitude, then everybody's going to feed into my attitude. So no matter what it is, no matter what kind of issues I have at home, I leave it at home. I could create rain showers, I could create a thunderstorm, and I can make it snow based on the way I feel. So if I come in every day positive, laughing, smiling, no matter what it is, that's the first thing that I give my employees and my men as an attitude to feed off of me as a vibe. So that's what I do every day, no matter how bad my day is, to create a positive environment for my men to work in.
Thank you very much. Give him a hand. Oh, there's your thing. Thank you very much for sharing those. And, I was going to tell you a clip about the actor, and his name has just gone whoop, right out of my head. He played in The Three Amigos, Martin Short, okay? Martin Short. Everyone thinks that some of these actors have perfect lives, right? And he had a new book out, and they were interviewing him about this book. And it comes out that his brother was killed in an accident when he was 12. His parents died when he was 18, and his wife of 20 years had ovarian cancer and died. And he says, you have to figure it out, because you have to still be funny on The Tonight Show. So, yeah. Yeah, come on. I hid them down here, right? I didn't know how many would like to share.
I was thinking one of those big Hershey bars.
Oh. You're going to have to go steal that from whoever had it.
My name is Greg Aber. I'm Marietta, Georgia.
Oh.
And so anyhow, what we do, and I kind of hold back a little bit about where I work. One of my coworkers is here as well. We invest in the family of the individuals that work for us. And so when someone is sick, I may go to their house and visit with them. If a family member has had major surgery, I'll be at the hospital in the waiting room with them. And we do that. We've got about 40, I've got about 40 folks who work for me. And we try to do that. We get on a personal basis. I try to, it's a lot of people, and it's very hard to do. But I try to learn things about my employees' families, their children, what they might be going through or what their interests are. And we find that we still use extra mile. We still use that.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Because we come to work and we give everything we are because of who we are. But sometimes we do go that extra whatever. And I think our company does that because we not only invest in them and knowing and showing that we care, but we also invest in them sometimes financially. Perhaps they've had several things hit them all at once, and we'll try to help them.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful way to end our little program. Give him a hand.
I do work for a church, but I am a facilities manager.
Okay, it's time for our drawing. So if you've got your business cards in there, you want to bring them up here, and we will